22 organized by the UN Food System Hub. This session will showcase the transformative potential of specific science-based interventions, innovations, and investment approaches that they can support countries to implement agri-food system pathways with their overall efforts to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Without further ado, it is now my great honor to invite Ms. Amina Mohamed, the UN Deputy Secretary General, to deliver her welcome remarks. Ms. Mohamed, the floor is yours.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and I can see many friends in the room. It is a real pleasure for me to join you at this flagship World Food Forum event that has been organized by youth for youth engagement in food systems transformations. Let me also thank FAO Director General, Dr. Yu Dongyu, for his vision of the forum and for his leadership in organizing the UN Food Systems Coordination Hub. Food insecurity and hunger present an enormous challenge, exacerbated by growing conflicts, climate-related shocks, water scarcity, and the widening inequalities that we're seeing around the world. These intersecting crises, coupled with rising food prices, an unprecedented squeeze on the cost of living, and the broader impacts of the war in Ukraine, are pushing millions of people into extreme poverty, amplifying hunger and malnutrition, and threatening to back-roll hard-won development gains. More than 800 million people already suffered from hunger in 2021. 3 billion people, almost half of humanity, cannot afford a healthy diet today. And it is the younger generation who is affected most by our past decisions and the actions that we take today. Perhaps we will say the inactions of today. Projections showing that we could still face chronic hunger in 2030 at the same level as in 2015 when the 2030 Agenda was launched. This is a shocking verdict. In essence, the SDGs may have prevented the problem from getting worse, but the rapidly changing global context and interconnected nature of the social, political, ecological, and economic systems have amplified the urgency and the magnitude of transforming our food systems. A continued crippling food emergency could trigger further social, economic, and political upheaval, jeopardizing the future of many, especially young people in our countries in the developing world. We must act with resolve and cooperation to prevent rising food costs, shortages, and insecurity. The 2030 Agenda and the SDGs still chart a comprehensive and integrated actions on food systems at global scale. Last year, during the Food Systems Summit, governments committed to transform their food systems, recognizing the catalytic effect of such a transformation and what that would have on all of the SDGs. Through the UN Food Systems Coordination Hub, the UN has been supporting food system transformations on the ground, supporting and accompanying countries not only to withstand the shocks of the 21st century, but meet the urgent needs of the poorest and the most vulnerable. The Hub follows the UN Secretary General's commitment to draw upon the UN system's capacities to ensure the long-term impact of the Food Systems Summit. It responds to our common agenda, anticipating risks and coordinating actions across all of the SDGs through inclusive participation of various stakeholders, in particular our producers, women, indigenous people, and youth. Through a country-owned approach, the Hub works with national food system conveners and other partners to develop and implement ambitious food system transformation pathways. This is ongoing work. It is work that has actually informed the Global Crisis Response Group as it looks at the impacts on the food systems and hunger. It also engages with stakeholder groups to seek solutions that work for everyone. We welcome the efforts undertaken by the Hub to innovate, drive solutions, and closely engage young people, and in particular other stakeholders in the agri-food systems transformations. Through deeper cooperation, co-creation, and joint action, I trust the Hub will support member states to promote transformative policies to accelerate food system change, and hope that that catalyzes the much needed action towards achieving the SDGs. Looking ahead, Support should focus on challenges identified by national conveners, with full engagement and support from UN resident coordinators and our country teams to provide better tailored solutions at domestic and local levels, taking into account the diversity of situations and contexts between countries and regions. Support would include access to finance and investments, technical aid and capacity development, as well as establishment of benchmarks to measure progress for each country. As you embark upon your discussions today, I invite you to examine these issues, interrogate them, and the investment opportunities that are needed to respond to current and future challenges, and build this on science, on innovation, and traditional knowledge systems. Let's ensure that the upcoming 2023 Food Systems Stocktaking Moment, as well as the SDG Stocktaking Moment, profiles real success stories that are filling gaps, that are moving to scale with a sense of urgency, that ensure just and equitable transformations. I wish you all a really good debate, and I look forward to having the feedback give me more work to do, more work to advocate, and a real special appreciation for every young person that is here with us today, because today is the beginning of how we ought to respond to tomorrow, making it, I hope, more sustainable and more equitable. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Secretary General, for your inspiring words. Your commitment to the food system transformation is fundamental for our success. Your time is very much valued, and we thank you once again for being with us. We know that you have to leave us now, and please accept our sincere thanks for your presence and valuable support. Thank you very much. I'm now honored to invite the FAO Director General, Dr. Chu Dong-Yu, who has given proof of his inclusive vision by supporting the growth of the World Food Forum and providing leadership for the hosting and establishment of the UN Food System Coordination Hub. Sir, you have the floor.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear change makers, meaningfully diverse and effective interaction, dialogue, and participation is critical to transform our agri-food systems and put SDGs back on track. You see, in the UN Specialized Agency, we are only one have a special office of SDGs. We reformed that 3 years ago, and at a D2 level. So I said, the walk, the talk, because we need the instrument to implement, to emphasize, and prioritize. That time we didn't know the pandemics approaching, and also over collapse crisis is coming. We have to design something in advance. And then always there is a famous phosphorus said, every opportunity waiting for someone who prepare yourself in advance. So let's take this opportunity now and take another side of the crisis is opportunity for us to change a business, to change FAO, to feed the purpose. That's why, again, I come here. You can see that's my 16 or 17 meetings today. I will end about 20. At the 2021 UN Food Systems Summit, 163 members nations convened and committed on the importance of agri-food system transformation in accelerate the 2030 agenda and SDGs nationally and globally. They all express the same sense of agencies and the strong hope that together we can and must make progress towards sustainable, equitable, healthier, and resilient agri-food systems for current and future generations. This is why we are here today, to build on this moment and deliver on this commitment. This is also why FAO is honored to host the UN Food Summit Coordination Hub on behalf of UN Systems for follow-up to the summit outcomes. I really appreciate the trust from DSG and SG to myself, to FAO. I know it's a big responsibility and a big honor for us to work together as a solidarity of UN systems with members, with key partners, public, private, academia. I always say the five, civil society and NGOs and others, especially across the different generations, from kids to senior. And today we can see a number of the senior scientists also, they are up to 80 years old, still very active. That is real intergenerational solidarity. Yeah, we know there are more and more generation gaps, but we needed to build the solidarity across the different generations and based on science, based on the humanity, based on passion. Without these three things, you couldn't build a real solidarity, no matter among members, among the generation, among even our kids, our grandkids. Yeah? So that's something we need to tell them and transfer to them. Together, united as one UN, our goal is to support the countries in making the agri-food system transformation a reality on the ground, as quick and as efficient, as inclusively as possible. But this will not happen without the meaningful engagement of youth, without the science, without the proper investment. Building meaningful partnership to leverage our collective strengths is the only way we can move forward. Dear change makers, the key is clear. Sustainable agri-food systems are the essential solutions to many of the current complex challenges the world is faced with: hunger, poverty, climate crisis, biodiversity loss, and pollution, and conflict, and among others. And it is possible to feed the growing global population while protecting our planet. Many solutions already existed, but we need a holistic design and implement properly. Now we need to move to the action. We know a lot of scientists are familiar with the think tank. I always said, transfer yourself from the think tank to action tanker. You talk, and then if 1,000 times, it's better to take one action, small action. That's become the action tanker. What I did with my colleagues here. Look at the mindset, small things. I grew up from very extreme family. So I always start a very small change. Look the SDG rainbow. What's matter your step? That was newly installed. I think how many hours ago? I said, it's good to promote the SDGs. I think my sister, Amina Mohammed, if she can see that small change, it's about 10 cents for each. You look now, they move around. It's a promote SDGs, and it's a mindset, mind your steps. Because we are getting older, not like young people. If you fall in that, it's dangerous. Yeah? So it's a good combination with little money. We need a science to ensure the evidence-based policymaker and use to guarantee sustainability of today's action and the investment community to help us move from planning to the implementation, from strategy to the action plan. The hub will, among other actions, foster ecosystem support for meaningful multi-stakeholder engagement. In this session, we will have two impact panels. One is on the investment and another on the science, technology, and innovation. Both panels will show the case how the global community can inclusively tap into new opportunities, build forwards together toward a better future. In times of the multiple crises, we need bold solutions, actions across our Agrifood system to ensure the SDG become the shared reality. The World Food Forum reminds us we need the long-term planning to safeguard the health of our people and the planet. I know we can do extraordinary work together. And that's why I build all the scientists, no matter it's a panel of the CFS, and no matter it's a former advisory scientific group for UN Food Summit, and others. And this UN Food Summit mission and action, we can work as one big team. That's why I work with my colleagues, chief scientists, chief economists, and others. We are honored to invite all of you to join us as a big advisory group to assist the transformation of agri-food systems globally. And that's a real big team work, a big spirit for the science solution. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director General, for your words. You have pointed out the fundamental role of an inclusive process for transformative agri-food systems, and we understood very well that an inclusive approach is one of the essential ingredients of change. We will now have the pleasure of hearing a video message from the recently elected President of the International Fund for Agricultural Development, Mr. Alvaro Lario.
I would like to thank the FAO Director General and the Hub for hosting this important event and the launch of the Science Advisory Committee of the UN System Coordination Hub. The appointment of Youth and Indigenous People focal points sends an important signal to the food system community. It means we're taking action to honor our commitment to equal opportunities and access to investments, innovation, and digitalization. The Food System Summit underscored the interdependence of food security, health, and environmental challenges. It stressed the importance of innovations to address these things in a systemic manner. In the face of today's food crisis, this has become even more urgent. The rippling impacts of the war in Ukraine are affecting the whole world and remind us how interconnected our challenges are. What can the Science Advisory Committee do? It can mobilize the scientific community to help, to support implementation of national pathways towards sustainable food systems. Investment, science, and innovation all need to come together to improve global food systems to feed a growing population. As one of the Hub oversight agencies, IFAD knows that implementing national pathways is a key commitment to promote both global food security and national food sovereignty. IFAD's own portfolio of $8.3 billion is dedicated to agri-food system transformation and focuses on small-scale producers. As just one example, IFAD and the government of Ethiopia have designed a new project directly linked with the country's national pathways. It aims to improve nutrition and irrigation and enhance country-level policy engagement linked to food systems. At last year's summit, the finance leader highlighted the need for a new food finance architecture and up to $350 billion in additional annual investments. But it's not just about money. The finance lever also called for public and private financial decisions to stop financing food systems that are short-sighted, unhealthy, destructive, and unsustainable for the people and the planet. It's a big challenge, but unless we meet it, we will not transform our broken food systems or achieve sustainability. IFAD and its partners are stepping up to that challenge. We're working with the World Bank on things like reshaping incentives, integrating risks, financial products, and fair prices. This approach can lead to major innovation in how food systems are being financed. But we must remember the most important innovations are those that directly benefit smallholders and vulnerable rural people. Today, most of IFAD's investments already support such innovations, such as crop diversification and livestock and crop management. To combat hunger, we must take investment, science, and innovation to a new level. Therefore, IFAD looks forward to collaborating with all of you to jointly approach the work ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to President Lario. Dear participants, science is at the core of the work of the UN Food System Coordination Hub, and we will have a chance later to hear more from the scientists this evening. Before we do that, it is my great honor to invite again FAO Director General Dr. Chu Dong-Kyu to officially welcome 6 distinguished scientists as members of the Hub's Scientific Advisory Committee and hand over to them the nomination letter. I'm inviting in the stage the Director General, together with Professor Clapp, Professor Van Braun, Professor Echeverria, Professor Bertram, Professor Rao Nida, and Professor Gurib Fakim. Yes, I didn't get the name, sorry. Yes.
I think he also. Is somebody here? How many members? I saw they also.
There are many members here.
Oh, so I invite.
It's a symbolic.
Okay.
So that's from Professor Clapp. Professor Clapp, could you come in the stage, please?
We have 31 or 33. 33. Okay. So I thank you for your. Thank you. I really respect all the scientists. I want to hand my.
Professor Clapp, if you could stay in the stage. Professor Brown.
Thank you. Now you are the chair of the 4 advisory group. Now you are a member of the committee. Yeah, thank you.
Professor Echeverria. Professor Bertram. Rob is not here. Professor Rao. Professor Rao. And Professor Gurib Fakim. Can I please ask all the scientists to join the Director General, and the Chief Scientist also is Mahane Eluafi.
We are now more powerful female scientists. Yes. I'm happy.
So did you add down more members here?
Yeah, I saw because I really appreciate it. And thank you. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, Director General. We understand you might have to leave the plenary room. So I would like now to continue. The Director General mentioned we will have two panels, and I would like to start with the first panel, and I'm pleased to invite Mr. Maximo Torero, Chief Economist of FAO, to come and moderate the panel, and join him Dr. Dil Bahadur from Nepal, Mr. Stefano Gatti from Italy, Nicolas Domke from the Youth, and Dario Meia Mondalvano from Indigenous People. Please, Mr. Torero, the floor is yours.
No, thank you very much, and I please my panelists if they can approach here and sit here. It will be great. Thank you. Please take a seat, wherever you feel comfortable. Okay, thank you very much. We have 25 minutes. This has to be a fast panel with very important content, because we're going to talk about investing in the agri-food system transformation. And for us, call it agri-food system transformation is extremely important because it's more than just food. It's also agriculture to create food access through better income, through fibers and other types of commodities. So the dialogue that we have here is how we can work and what will be the ways in which we can collaborate to accelerate the process of investing in this agri-food system transformation. What, in your case, in the case of your groups, how you think should be the next steps so that we can move forward and start the process of transformation, and how we can bring investment into it. In the last 2 days, we have been accelerating that process through one of the means of implementation, which is the Hand in Hand initiative, and we have tried to accelerate investment in 20 countries that were here and 3 regional initiatives. So let me start the panel by inviting His Excellency Dr. Dil Bahadur Gurung, a member of the National Planning Commission of Nepal, to share his country perspective. Mr. Bahadur, please, if you can share your perspective. You can come.
Thank you, Dr. Maximo. Mr. Chair and ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to be one of the panelists to update and share on the implementation of national pathways to transform Nepal food system in this important event today. I would like to thank the FAO Director General, Chu Dan Yu, for inviting me to participate in this very important event. I would like to start with the brief background of food system transformation initiatives in Nepal. As a part of the UN, as a part of implementation of UN Food System Summit, Government of Nepal, National Planning Commission, in collaboration with UN agencies, development partner, private sector, academia, CSO, and key stakeholders successfully convened a national, 4 national and 7 provincial food system dialogue on the theme Nepal towards an equitable, resilient, and sustainable food system. The purpose was to examine the existing food system in terms of its expectation, functioning, vulnerabilities, and opportunities, and to identify national pathways to transform towards a more resilient, equitable, and sustainable food system by 2030. National dialogues were held around the 6 themes, the 5 action tracks of UN Food System Summit, and right to food as a lever of change to improve food governance and policy coherence. The process was consultative and inclusive, and that brought together around 1,470 participants representing wide range of stakeholders. As an outcome of these dialogue, national pathways and strategic actions were developed. Some 28 agencies or stakeholders shared their commitment to contribute to the transformation of food system. Nepal attended pre-summit, UN Food System, and also the summit, and addressed by Right Honorable Prime Minister Sherbahadur Dewa, and shared the country's statement. Also, we attended ministerial roundtable meeting and shared priority action identified from the national and provincial food system dialogues. Right to Food and Food Sovereignty Act was recognized and highlighted as an overarching policy framework to achieve food governance for the transformation of Nepal food system. We have identified linkages between school meal program with the homegrown food promotion, a promotion of local food system, building climate resilient agriculture system, and attraction to youth to the agriculture, infrastructure development, nutritious and affordable diets, development of gender-sensitive programs. I would like to highlight the implementation of national pathways to transform food system in Nepal. Ministries and departments are implementing many strategic actions identified during the food system dialogue while the review of implementation is ongoing. In order to further expedite the implementation of national pathways, National Planning Commission, Government of Nepal formed a food system steering committee, and the committee coordinates and steers the process of implement and monitor the national pathways and strategic action. Further, Nepal, we have recently organized a fourth national dialogue and reviewed and reflected the outcomes of the national and provincial food system dialogues organized last year, and specific activities under food system pathways were endorsed. As a part of implementation of national pathways, Government of Nepal included directives in annual planning and budgeting guidelines, recommending the ministries for the inclusion of outcomes of the food system dialogue in annual plan for the next year. NPC, National Planning Commission, Government of Nepal, assess the progress, identify best practices, lessons learned during the implementation of the food system transformation. For this purpose, to measure the progress, monitoring and evaluation framework is going to under development with the support of FAO. Since the planning and budgeting is key to implement the action, NPC, National Planning Commission, has planned to organize provincial food system review and planning workshop in all the 7 provinces by December 2020, and this will facilitate sub-national government to include the transformative action in the annual planning and budget. We have identified 4 relevant alliance and coalition: school meal, local food supply chain, climate resilient development pathways, and right to food to engage and contribute to the transformation of food system. The government of Nepal has given a high priority to implement the national pathways and action to transform food system. We are in the process of endorsing the national pathways and strategic action from the government of Nepal. Key strategy priorities to transform food systems will be focused on science-based innovation, policy coherence, implementation of Right to Food Act to ensure the good governance and accountability at all level, evidence-based planning, revitalization of local food system, increase investment to increase resilience and mitigate climate change. About more than 50% farmers are smallholders, so we are focusing on supporting small farmers to increase their farm productivity, resilient to climate change, and livelihood diversification. To increase incomes and economic resilience will be the first priority. Also, capacity building is crucial in terms of replicating and scaling up best practices and innovation. We encourage development partners, including Rome-based agencies, to support the capacity strengthening. Financing is a key to implement the action and transform the food system. Hence, government in Nepal call for collaborative efforts for all the development partners and key stakeholders to include in their action plan and finance them along with the government. We, the government of Nepal, expect to continue support from UN Food System Coordination Hub in sharing, exploring, and implementing the good global innovative food system transformation action and policies in Nepal. So we appreciate the support received from the UN agencies, FAO, WFP, WHO, UNICEF, IFAD, and other development partners and other stakeholders for the transformation of agri-food system in Nepal. I thank you all.
So thank you so much for your kind message, and also especially because of the importance that you bring to going bottom up and trying to bring the information that is needed from the provinces up into the global strategy of the agri-food system transformation. And clearly here is where we need to continue to keep working to trying to accelerate the process and trying to bring the ways in which we can bring the investment to the transformation of those impact pathways. So thank you very much, Dr. Gurung. So after our timely food system summit, I am pleased to learn about all the efforts that are happening. And now let's move out to Italy, which was the host of the pre-summit here, and which support enormously this process of the pre-summit. So I have the pleasure to have here the Special Envoy for Food Security of the Italian government, Mr. Stefano Gatti. Stefano, if you can speak from there with the microphone, or or if you want to come, whatever is easier.
I don't. Yes, it works.
Yep,
it works.
perfect.
It works. So fantastic. I'll do it seated. Very good. So thank you very much. Good evening. Maximo, you have asked me to, and our other panelists, to come and speak about specific case studies. So I would like to concentrate my intervention on an area that is the Mediterranean area, of which obviously Italy is part. You wouldn't be surprised. Because we have been recently working with FAO, with you, and with all the colleagues very closely on the issue of the Mediterranean. So the Mediterranean is, as you know, an area that is, Mediterranean countries are extremely rich in food and food culture. We have something that has been recognized by UNESCO as, the Mediterranean diet, as heritage of humanity. On the other side is an area that is extremely vulnerable to food emergency situations. The effects of climate change, biodiversity loss, food insecurity, and recently, as you know, the war in Ukraine, whose effects have really shocked a number of Mediterranean countries that are highly dependent on importing wheat and other essential foodstuff from Ukraine and Russia. So what did we do as a government of Italy, also in agreement with the other G7 partners? We launched an initiative in collaboration and with a very important support from FAO, and we have called in June a Mediterranean Ministerial Dialogue on the food crisis in the Mediterranean, to which 26 countries participated and 8 international organizations. What did we learn from that and from the follow-up technical work that we had also taken forward now with FAO? And we have a new edition, a second moment of this dialogue that will be taking place the 2nd of December at ministerial level. First of all, we have seen that the most pressing challenges in the coming years in the Mediterranean region, not only obviously in this region, but definitely in this region, is the need to increase agricultural production in a sustainable way, optimizing the use of water. I would like to stress water, because water is a particularly delicate issue everywhere, but obviously in the Mediterranean. And we have experienced recently in Italy, with summer, a very serious drought, soil, energy, fertilizer, and other inputs. So how do we address these challenges, speaking with the countries and the partner organization? I was reading, science and innovation, investment, youth actions. Some of the answers are there, absolutely, of the things that we need to do. But I've been asked to deal on the issue of investments. Now, investment is a very important issue, and there's no doubt that there is a lack of investment in order to face such an enormous challenge. But in speaking with the countries, I have noticed 3 points that I wanted to raise here on investment. First of all, dealing also with international financial institutions. Many of them have committed huge amount of monies. You have heard, World Bank, 50 billions. Every time that you have this difficult situation of crisis, you have this announcement of huge amounts of money. What do we see there? We see that very much of that money is coming out and is committed on emergency and humanitarian support and emergency measures. That obviously is right, it's not wrong, it's what you need to be doing, but much, much less, if any, on what really is needed to transform agri-food systems, that is middle and long-term activities and planning. So we as Italy are pushing in the board of the international financial institutions, which we are part, to make sure that every time that there are these important commitments, these important financing, a share of this is clearly, since the beginning, reserved to and focused on middle and long-term programs, because that is needed. If not, every time you will find yourself in an emergency situation. Second issue, speaking with the Mediterranean countries, that has come out, and I think is very relevant. We had a technical meeting, Maximo participated also the 29th of September in Bari with many Mediterranean countries, is an issue of capacity. I think that it goes without saying, if you throw a lot of money to a problem, it's not necessarily you find a solution. You need to be sure that who gets the money, if it gets it, has the capacity to get it and manage it. We have one example. There's a huge and very important European Commission program in the Mediterranean area that is called PRIMA, that has around 600 billion euros of commitment that will now focus on research, innovation, and technology in the food system, agri-food systems. Several countries we were speaking with in Bari told us that the program is fantastic, the projects are there, and they do need it, but they need to present requests for these programs, and there the capacity comes out. All these projects and programs require several countries to get together, their centers, their capabilities, and present programs. Many times countries just do not have that capacity. So we have to work in increasing the capacity of these countries to really present the proposals and get the money. And this is extremely important at European Union level for the amount of financing. The European Commission has committed 600 million euros, additional euros in September, but they come with this process, and you need capacity. Third point on which we have been working in collaboration with FAO since last year at the G20, when we had the G20 presidency with the material declaration on food security that we think has been a very important declaration last year, fixing some key elements of what we need to be doing, is blended financing. We need to have the capability to match private funding with public funding. And that is a big challenge. It's something that is easier said than done. How do you do it? How do you make these two worlds work together? And so we are working with FAO on really projects, idea of how can we do that and how can we attract private financing together with public financing. It's something that a lot of people agree, but really needs still to be really done and tested very well on the ground. So these are 3 points I wanted to raise on the issue of investment.
No, thank you. Thank you very much, Stefano. And it's great to have the leadership of your country, of Italy, and trying to bring together the Mediterranean countries. And I think a lot can be done in the agri-food system transformation, especially in the challenges that we are facing today. So, and looking at the financing part is essential, as also was mentioned by the IFAD president. We need to find solutions, and blending finance is one of those solutions. There are many other solutions, but clearly, as the representative of Nepal mentioned, we need to try to find ways in which we can support countries to accelerate the process of financing these transformation pathways. Colleagues, I don't know if you remember, but when the Food System Summit finished, there was this new structure that was created for the follow-up, for the hub. And in the structure, of course, we had at the middle the countries, and that's why we had Nepal and Italy here as representatives to present about the countries and the core of the transformation pathway. One, a sole country process that goes bottom up, and of course Italy, which is bringing the Mediterranean countries with them. But also we have the science part, which we already had the science advisory group that will be supporting us, but we also have two other arms to this structure. One was the indigenous people, and the other one was the youth. And the youth is central and is the motif of this World Food Forum that we are trying to push today. So I am very happy to invite a very special guest that we all know that this forum and the hub will need to move forward and bring the energy and the intelligence of the youth into this play. So it's great to invite and have the honor to invite Nicolas Domke Venegas, who has been selected to voice the views of the future generations. And the process went up to very few hours ago when you have been selected, so congratulations, and please, you have the floor.
Well, I am really honored to be here and could be able to address to this audience. In order for the inclusion, I will address to you in my mother tongue, español. Yo vengo de Chile, del sur de Chile. Para mí, la verdad es que es un privilegio estar acá con ustedes. Pero reconozco que el hecho de ser hombre, blanco y con un apellido extranjero me ha ayudado a llegar a este puesto, porque Chile es un país, y todavía yo creo que somos una sociedad que se fija en esas características, quizás no para escoger a sus representantes, pero sí para estar presente en estos puestos que son de privilegio y de poder en cierta forma. Durante esta semana nos hemos reunido jóvenes de las distintas regiones del mundo a debatir después de un proceso de consulta que involucró encuestas juveniles, diálogos de consulta regional desarrollados de forma virtual y finalmente mesas regionales que se desarrollaron durante el día de ayer y hoy aquí en los edificios centrales de FAO. Como resultado de esto hemos identificado distintas prioridades, pero antes de incluir y de mencionarles estas prioridades, quisiera primero que todo agradecer al Hub de Coordinación de la Cumbre de los Sistemas Alimentarios por establecer el grupo de asesor de participación de partes interesadas y redes, SENA por sus siglas en inglés, y seleccionarme como uno de los tres representantes de los jóvenes, junto a mis compañeras Elizabeth Mande de Kenia y Lucrecia Tucci de Italia. En segundo lugar, quisiera dirigirme a los países miembros que han participado de la Cumbre de los Sistemas Alimentarios, desarrollado el año 2021, y a quienes también se han comprometido y propuesto estrategias nacionales para la transformación de los sistemas agroalimentarios. Como jóvenes, esperamos que nuestra inclusión sea provechosa para ambos sentidos, tanto para las agencias del Sistema de las Naciones Unidas y los países miembros, como también para los diversos grupos de jóvenes que intentan involucrarse en esta conversación a nivel nacional, regional y global. En esta inclusión los invitamos a no dejar a nadie atrás, a incluir a todas las regiones y sus representantes jóvenes en los espacios de conversación respecto a los sistemas agroalimentarios. Como les decía, durante esta semana, jóvenes provenientes de todo el mundo nos reunimos a discutir las prioridades políticas identificadas por las juventudes a través de un proceso inclusivo que consideró encuestas, diálogos y mesas desarrolladas aquí en los edificios centrales de FAO. Prioridades que incluyen temas como la necesidad de una mejor educación, más ciencia y tecnología e innovación, así como también la consideración de los conocimientos ancestrales, locales e indígenas para la transformación de los sistemas agroalimentarios. Cabe la posibilidad que al momento de publicar estas prioridades para algunas autoridades presentes en esta reunión y quienes nos siguen de forma online, estas prioridades identificadas por las juventudes suenen de cierta forma familiares, dando lugar así a que ustedes puedan pensar, nuestras autoridades, que los jóvenes somos ignorantes respecto a las acciones y planes que ya se están desarrollando. Desde nuestra perspectiva, quienes han fallado han sido ustedes, nuestras autoridades, en incluirnos y en comunicar de una mejor forma las acciones que ya se están llevando a cabo. Entonces, la invitación es al diálogo inclusivo, transparente y descentralizado, que la inclusión de los jóvenes no sea tan solo a un alto nivel como es el hub de coordinación, sino también a un nivel regional, nacional y local, porque somos una sociedad diversa y como jóvenes estamos enfrentados a diversas barreras que varían según nuestra localidad y nuestros distintos territorios. Sepan que los jóvenes tenemos la intención y disposición de participar en estas conversaciones, así como también de las acciones necesarias para alcanzar el cumplimiento de los Objetivos de Desarrollo Sostenible y la Agenda 2030 a través de la transformación de los sistemas alimentarios hacia unos más sostenibles e inclusivos. Es así que la invitación es para ustedes, nuestras autoridades globales, regionales y locales, de incluirnos en todos los niveles. Como representantes jóvenes estamos disponibles a ayudar en ese proceso, a poder crear los mecanismos que son necesarios para tener a representantes escogidos de una forma transparente por los distintos grupos a los cuales deben representar. Una vez más agradezco la oportunidad de poder dirigirme a esta audiencia y a Máximo por poder también impulsar la generación del World Food Forum y la inclusión de los jóvenes en este espacio. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much. And yes, we need the transformation, we need the energy. We have all responsibilities that we have to play to move forward the things that we are doing. So we have a very important task ahead, but my next guest is also a change maker. And I would like to welcome Darío Mejía Montalvo. But first I want to say that if somebody and some sector knows what systems is indigenous people. Because you work holistically since the beginning, that's the way you think. You want the equilibrium in the world. So your knowledge and what you are doing is extremely important for us. So please, está bienvenido a presentar, por favor. And Mr. Mejía Montalvo is the indigenous people representative for the whole indigenous group that also went through their process and selected him. Thank you so much.
Muchas gracias, Máximo, por la presentación, por la invitación. Quiero saludarles de manera muy especial a todas y a todos. Quiero compartir con ustedes, para iniciar, una expresión que utilizamos en nuestro trabajo comunitario siempre que enfrentamos retos. Decimos: la palabra sin acción es vacía. La acción sin la palabra es ciega. Y la palabra y la acción por fuera del espíritu colectivo es la muerte. Esta reflexión que les comparto a propósito de las que nos han invitado a hablar de innovación e inversión desde la perspectiva de los pueblos indígenas, ya les haré un par de comentarios. Todos en este momento y en este mundo hablamos de transformar las cosas, pero ¿hacia qué dirección queremos hacer esos cambios? ¿Hacia dónde queremos andar? Algunos estarán pensando que la mejor manera de transformar las cosas es hacer más de lo que se ha venido haciendo y quizás buscar un ángulo distinto. Quienes estamos desde la conformación de los sistemas de Naciones Unidas y de la conformación de los estados, quienes hemos quedado afuera, quienes hemos quedado atrás, tenemos una mirada distinta. Yo quiero decirles hoy, en este momento, que para muchos pueblos indígenas en el mundo, los conceptos de vida energía y espiritualidad son sinónimos. Quien los ha visto por separado hemos sido nosotros, porque utilizamos la ciencia o la política o las religiones. Y verlos por separado, dependiendo del interés, de la disciplina o del enfoque, nos ha llevado a quizás una de las mayores hambres que tenemos, más allá de los más de 1.000 millones de personas que padecen hambre en este momento. Quizás una falencia común que tenemos como humanidad, estas generaciones actuales, es que no tenemos una claridad sobre lo que significa justicia. Si tuviéramos claridad sobre lo que significa justicia, simplemente no tuviéramos tanta hambre en este momento. Bien, ahora, como les decía, verlos por separado es lo que nos ha llevado a situaciones innecesarias. Para muchos pueblos indígenas, la tierra es la madre. Para otros, la madre es el agua, o una montaña, o una planta, o un río, o el mar, o la lluvia. Como esta es la madre, resulta muy difícil no cuidar a la madre. Pero esto no es un asunto de romanticismo, como se podría ver, o un asunto de las historias o de la arqueología, o antropólogo, o de antropología. Esta forma de ver el mundo es actual, es real, es efectiva. Tan real que aquí estamos, ustedes ahorita podíamos cruzar las manos y tocarnos. Estamos aquí. De tal forma que la discusión, si los conocimientos de los pueblos indígenas son científicos o no, es una discusión inocua en este momento. Porque lo que está demostrando es que son efectivos para la tarea más importante que tiene el ser humano sobre la tierra, que es cuidar la vida. Solo unos datos para entrar en el lenguaje. Apenas somos el 6.2% de la población sobre la tierra y conservamos el 80% de la diversidad, de la biodiversidad que aún le queda al planeta. Hemos sido relegados apenas al menos del 20% de la superficie de la tierra, pero en ese 20% conservamos las esponjas de absorción de la contaminación del mundo más importante que tenemos. Y ahí es donde menos se contamina, donde menos se envían gases, donde menos se generan condiciones para las crisis alimentarias. Y muchos de estos ecosistemas tan valiosos tienen una última oportunidad sobre el planeta. Otros todavía tienen un poco más. Podemos hacer algo. Muchas de las fórmulas para cuidar enfermedades o para proporcionar nutrientes vienen del conocimiento de los pueblos indígenas, sin un reconocimiento real sobre este origen. Por eso, a pesar de que hemos quedado por fuera en los sistemas jurídicos, en los salones donde se toman las decisiones sobre el rumbo de la humanidad, a pesar de eso, lo que sí no hemos perdido son los valores, ni la voluntad para querer aportar, con elementos muy sencillos. La apuesta por conservar la armonía, el equilibrio, la complementariedad. Quiero, y para ir finalizando, compartirles otra historia desde mi gente. Hay quienes piensan que la dinámica del mundo, de las organizaciones, se parece mucho a lo que somos los seres humanos. Hay pensamiento, hay necesidades y hay acciones. Eso en nuestro cuerpo se ve reflejado en la cabeza, en el estómago y en las extremidades. La cabeza son los pensamientos. La barriga son las necesidades y las extremidades son el movimiento. Si no hay armonía entre estas partes, entonces vamos rumbo a caernos. Un ser humano con una enorme cabeza, con una cantidad innumerable de pensamientos, pero sin acciones y sin resolver sus necesidades, fracasa. Sociedades llenando sus estómagos de riqueza y creciendo, pero sin pensar bien en lo que se hace y sin actuar para cambiar las cosas, también fracasa. Y acciones descoordinadas o con mucha fuerza, sin apuntarle a resolver los problemas que tenemos y sin pensarlos, no son sabiduría. De manera que esa es la invitación que queremos compartir con ustedes. Queremos caminar ese rumbo porque nosotros los pueblos indígenas estamos convencidos que podemos aportar. No es un asunto solamente de reclamar derechos, es la esperanza de que nos permitan compartir y que nos permitan ejercer, cumplir con nuestro deber más importante. ¿Qué acciones debemos hacer? Debemos transformar estas instituciones científicas, incorporar una perspectiva de los pueblos indígenas. Debemos tomar en serio la integralidad de los sistemas de conocimiento y los sistemas alimentarios. Hay una relación intrínseca entre estos sistemas y las acciones y las políticas frente al cambio climático, la seguridad territorial, garantizar participación son fundamentales. Con eso quiero reiterar mi agradecimiento y mi saludo y estamos siempre aquí dispuestos para seguir compartiendo. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much, Darío. Muchísimas gracias. Claramente tenemos muchas necesidades y creo que están muy claras y muy bien documentadas. Necesitamos acción y necesitamos acción coordinada y necesitamos traer todos los conocimientos que hay. Conocimiento de los científicos, conocimiento de los jóvenes, de los grupos indígenas, de la sociedad civil, del sector privado, de todos los grupos para poder mover adelante lo que necesitamos hacer y para ayudar a los países a hacer la transformación que necesitan. Muchísimas gracias a todos y por favor, join me in thanking the panel here. Let me now call back Stefano. Let me now call back the chair of the meeting to continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maximo. Thank you, Mr. Torero. We will proceed now with the second impact panel on the power of science to transforming food systems, and I'm pleased to invite the Chief Scientist of FAO, Mrs. Mahane Eluafi, to introduce the panel. Together with Ms. Eluafi, I'm inviting Professors Brown, Echeverria, and Clapp to join the stage. And you are scientists, very efficient people. If you could save us 5 minutes for the end, we will really appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chief Scientist. Yes, I'll see you. Thank you. So without any further ado, if I can get my panelists to join me. So we're going to save the presentation because they are all very famous, very eminent. You know them. So please have a seat. Maybe whatever you want, I can sit next to you. Yeah, whatever. Doesn't matter. Go ahead, please. So, colleague, I think the UN Food Systems Summit achieved to establish a common realization that it will not be possible to achieve the SDGs and the 2030 agenda if we do not transform our agri-food system. So I think that we agreed on it, and we were, many of us, part of it one way or the other. So within this context, and to help us move forward towards a more efficient, more inclusive, more resilient, and more sustainable agri-food system, I'm very happy to be joined by 3 members of the newly established Scientific Advisory Committee to continue basically the discussion that we already started this afternoon with the Chief Scientist on the transformative power of science for transforming our agri-food system. The SAC, or the Scientific Advisory Committee, is composed of 33 eminent scientists that represent all fields of science relevant to agri-food system, from natural science to social science to economics to applied science, as well as sustainability science, interdisciplinarity, and transdisciplinarity. They are representing all regions of the world and also are inclusive of indigenous knowledge and expertise of different size and structure, from small to medium to large. The SAC will be dedicated to addressing systematic challenges identified at the regional and country level as part of the transformation pathways being developed by countries. The approach will be system-based and holistic. So I have with me 3 of the 33 eminent scientists on that group. And without any further ado, I would like really to bring them on board to have 2 rounds of questions and open it up for Q&A. So let me start with Dr. Joachim van Braun. And the question to you, Joachim, is what science is needed to overcome current and to prevent future food crises?
Well, thank you, Ismahane. The answer is plenty of science. Plenty of science adapted to circumstances, context, let me commend you and those who have drafted the terms of reference for this SAC or SAC. I like those terms of references. They emphasize the local, the country, and the regional. But I would like to add, we are currently in a global food crisis. So we must also embrace the international, the global, the trade issues, the global financial issues, the sharing of knowledge, the sharing of science. The very fact that the indigenous knowledge community is included also speaks to a transnational and not only country level as unit of observation. You ask what science? Productivity needs to be enhanced, so we need to draw on biological science, but also connect to the basic science which drives us forward with AI and digitization. I refer, for instance, to the breakthrough in protein folding that will change food systems very soon. I refer to nutrition innovations embedded in social safety nets. Lots of countries who are suffering from malfunctioning food systems currently have a major financial problem, a budget issue, and have built up social security systems which they can no longer sustain. So nutrition, mother and child, school feeding programs. And we need to watch out for trade and macroeconomics in this context. I know we have to be brief, but let me underline one point. Let's not forget what science is. When we talk science, we are with such a committee in the complexity of serving countries and stakeholders all over the world, but also to remain scientists at heart. So not shying away from correcting conventional wisdom, not shying away from asking deep new thoughts. In the sense of Friedrich Schiller, the German poet, who distinguished between bread scientists who do their work to earn bread and philosophers. I think we have to be both, but definitely not only bread-earning scientists. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joachim, and I will come back with you for a second question on how do we deal with uncertainty in science from your perspective. So let me move to Professor Jennifer Clapp. And the question to you, Jennifer, is what are the principles that are necessary to enhance the legitimacy of science policy interface for food systems. Thank you, Ruben. Thank you.
Thank you very
I think it's on as soon as you start.
Thank you very much. First, I'd like to thank you, Ismahan, Chief Scientist, for the invitation to be here today. It's an honor. Yes, what principles are necessary for legitimacy in food system science? I think it's an important question because food systems are very unique. They have many roles in society. Food provides it's a basic need, and food is also a human right. It's a livelihood, it's a business, it's a culture, and food systems are also ecosystems. And so when we have something so complex as food systems serving many different roles, it's not surprising that there are different perspectives and ideas out there, because where you sit within the food system determines how you view it and how it affects you. And so in this sense, we can have facts that we might agree are facts, but we might interpret them very differently depending on where we sit within food systems. So for that reason, it raises questions about how we ensure that science that serves policy is legitimate because of this diversity of viewpoints. So in that sense, I just wanted to map out a few things that I think are really essential to make science or ensure that science is legitimate for serving the needs of policy. And it has to be legitimate because it has to be publicly accountable. So the key things I think are necessary, the key ingredients, are independence and impartiality. So scientific advisory committees need to be independent and impartial and respond to questions that serve the public interest rather than other interests. They also need to be evidence-based and need to take a stand to weigh the evidence. In this sense, it's not just about being even-handed and giving equal time to all sides of a question, but to really weighing the evidence and understanding what it means for different stakeholders in food systems. It also needs to be consultative and participatory. Here we need to understand that scientific advisory committees, such as the one being established, need to reach out to different forms of expertise, and that plays on what Dr. von Braun just said. We need lots of different kinds of science, and I very much agree with that. But we also need to engage with different kinds of knowledge and knowledges, and we heard about that in the last session. And that means traditional knowledge, farmer knowledge, indigenous knowledge, and also knowledge based on experiences of those who are marginalized within food systems. All of these kinds of knowledges are extremely important to ensure legitimacy in the scientific process for policy. Transparency is also extremely important. It's important to disclose the sources of evidence that are used, to acknowledge areas of debate and disagreement, and also to share feedback with the public to ensure that everyone knows that all voices were heard and listened to, and all inputs into the process were considered. And last but not least, I'm sorry, I'm taking so long.
No worries. Yeah.
It's a complex process, right?
It is.
Yes, that science, to be legitimate, it also needs to be accessible. It needs to be accessible not just to policymakers, but to the general public. And that makes it a challenge for those of us working in science policy interfaces, because we have to take complex knowledge and information and, in a sense, make it translatable to the policy process, to the broader understanding in society of what the challenges are and how we address them. So those are the principles I wanted to map out.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. It's very well organized. It's almost it gives us really the guiding principles that we need for this particular group. But I'll come back to you about a question on the multiplicity. So Ruben, the question to you is, with your background as a manager of agriculture research and now at Gate Foundation, why do you think a new hub and another SAC would make a difference?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be back at FAO. Buonasera a tutti. We've been talking wisdom and knowledge for a long day, and we are in between your dinner. So I want to be perhaps a a bit anxious and pragmatic because we are at the end of the day. So we've been chatting all day. This has been a great science forum. We have another day to go, and Friday, of course, to close. We've been chatting a lot about the first name, but not too much about the last name, right? Mm-hmm. It's science and innovation. It's not a criticism at all because I want to keep being invited. It's my hand, so it's not. But so it's a real pleasure to talk about science and innovation, but so far, we've been talking a lot of science. And of course, it's fantastic. I used to be a scientist. It's all good. So my first point to frame this on the managerial type of view, I think, very modest, of course, is that just two references on the innovation part on the last name of this meeting. Mm-hmm. Recently, just less than a year ago, a Global Commission on Sustainable Ag Intensification mapped 100 reports. There are thousands, but just took 100 reports to look about science and innovation for the Global South. And they found that only $60 billion is invested in the Global South in something called agri-food innovation. We can discuss how it was defined. Wow. Only 60 billion. But the worrisome number is that about 5% of all of that was invested in environmental, climate-related innovations or on socioeconomic policies and institutional innovation, which I've been hearing all day that is kind of the bottleneck. So that's one important reference. The other one was very recent. At 11 a.m. this morning, here, Professor Phil Pardee from the University of Minnesota put some numbers there on one of the panels. Yeah. And I don't want to take a long time because I'm sure you have all memorized those numbers. Today, there are $100 billion being invested in agricultural research. 60% of that is on the top 10 countries, and 45% of that is in the top 3 countries, China, the US, and Japan. So the landscape for this, for the science and innovation, and for the hub and the SAC that is starting, is totally different from just a decade ago. So those are two references. So just let me, one more thing, since I don't have my notes, I am improvising, just one more thing. For the hub, in a pragmatic point of view, there is a lot of need since the summit, but for years, to say, well, who is coordinating as a hub? You know, we all love what IPCC is doing on climate. Who is coordinating at the national level? Not the global conferences, but at the national level, the investment plans. Who is sharing the best practices? Mm-hmm. Who is mobilizing the science that my colleagues just talked? I think that's a huge key function of the hub. And a hub without the scientific advisory committee, it will be weak. So I really hope, like everybody here, that this new scientific advisory committee will be very inclusive, it will be really based on science, but mainly thinking about what's going on at the national level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ruben. I hope you are not implying that we should have China, US, and Japan composing the whole SAC. No, kidding now.
We need all the rest. We need all the rest. And the CGR was mentioned here. The CGR was mentioned here, which is a mighty global organization that's going around for 50 years. The CGR today is less than 1%
of the total
less than 1%
investment
of the 100 billion that I mentioned.
Yeah,
thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Ruben, and I'm coming back to you on another question. Let me go back to Joaquim. Joaquim, you said one of the things that caught my attention in your response is that we need to be open to correct the traditional knowledge. So, and that takes me really to uncertainty in sciences, particularly if we go to basic sciences. So how do you think we should deal with uncertainty, particularly when we talk about UN Food Systems Summit transformation?
Well, true science falsifies. It doesn't verify, it falsifies. It corrects what we know in nuances or fundamentally. So that happens all the time related to the food system. I think this SAC can build on what the science communities have done in the last 2 to 5 years. We don't need to start from scratch. You forgive me if I refer to a scientific group. By the way, I had hoped we would bring you a big fat book to this meeting. It has gone to the printers. There are many who have contributed to the 50 chapters of the documents from the scientific group and all their many, many partners, which comes out in Springer Publishers before the end of this year. Anyway, is that a coherent volume? No, it is not coherent, because many voices are in there which contradict each other. And that is natural, because food systems are diverse. And I look forward to an atmosphere of peer culture, but wrestling with the issues. And you can always be right and wrong in such an advisory group. But one thing I think is absolutely necessary, and I think it was already mentioned by Professor Klapp. We have to take the interests of countries and stakeholders seriously. And start from where they are, and not only come from where the science is. Must be two-way street. And I hope we have a lot more dialogues. The 2 years for preparing the Food Systems Summit with the science communities were far too short. By the way, at some point, Ismahane, you need to tell us how long this SAC should work. Probably until 2030, but not with the same people. Not with the same people. Yeah. Lots of youth should grow up and replace us there. But in closing, on that point, I think the biggest challenges we have currently with the lack of preparedness for risk and uncertainty. So science on resilience, research on resilience is what probably we have missed out in the last 2 years in the run-up to the Food Systems Summit. We have 4 or 5 papers on that, and others have written about it, but we need to really address carefully the complexities of uncertainty and risk and what science can do to build resilience at the local level, at the country level, and at the global level.
Thank you very much, Joachim. And definitely for us, the SAC is 33, but it could grow, and it grows with areas that we see lacking. So maybe resilience sciences and having people from the different group, if they're lacking in the composition right now, will be very welcome to come. So maybe in 1 minute, Jennifer. So you talked about many guiding principles, and it takes me to maybe we need a multiplicity of panels and multiplicity of groups to address that. And I came to know by talking to UNESCO, they have a number of them. So how do you see it? How do you see us really addressing all these areas that are a must as a SAC, and as SAC part of a number of other groups that exist already and have already mandate and are influencer in the science policy interface of Agri-Food Systems?
Right, okay, that's a big order for 1 minute, but I'll give it my best. Well, just to say, I'm a member of the high-level panel of experts on food security and nutrition that advises the Committee on World Food Security. And the principles that I outlined are ones that really underpin how the HLPE functions. And that body was designed based on scientific research on how science policy interfaces should work. And they're becoming more and more participatory, inclusive, and transparent, and drawing on different forms of knowledge. So we see this as well with the IPBES. There are discussions around these issues in the IPCC, and I think the SAC could really, and the members of the HLPE who are participating in the SAC can really help bring these principles into the SAC to ensure that it follows best practices for science policy interfaces. And I think already lots of institutions have a lot of scientific capacity, and I think it's important to knowledge share across these different platforms. I think that's because we all have, we all come with our different specific areas of expertise, but I think the key is to share that knowledge and to do so openly to ensure that we really advance our understanding of what is necessary for food systems transformation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. And we have 1.5 minutes. I'm going to give it to you, Ruben, to answer the question of how could we get more the innovation in the SAC, particularly as we are talking about agri-food system transformation at the national level, that is, by the way, co-organized with the national focal point. So we have national focal point doing the whole agri-food system transformation.
Yeah, that's a great question. I used to be here at FAO for a few years, and well, the United Nations, FAO, they don't innovate that much institutionally and so on. But look at you. They have a chief scientist. So big UN organizations really change the way that they organize to this. So I think time is of essence here. And so there are two things. One, there is quite a bit of funding out there, to me, very fragmented and not very well, perhaps, coordinated. So the hub is not going to coordinate all of this funding, but at least it will inform and connect the dots, as many people were saying here. Second, focus on national. There are all of these 100 reports and zillions of reports. I don't know who reads them. I'm sorry to say. I don't know who reads them. But we are talking here just an hour ago on the... Joachim reads them. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Oh my God.
Good. We have somebody who reads them. So in the interface, I think, so managing the resources that they are, mobilize more resources because there is underfunding, particularly for the last name, and focusing on national, on the interface, on that famous interface, whatever that means. For this committee, I think it will be a great adventure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, please join me in thanking my great panel, and over to you, Stefanos. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Scientists and Professors. We are approaching the close of the event, so I'm the only thing between you and the next exciting session. So I would like to finish the event with just three things. One is that I really would like to express my appreciation for all the communities that they are here and they're supporting the hub. I'm confident that we have the right knowledge and people to help us better prepare for the food system transformations. The second is to say that the hub will continue working with all of you to prioritize three big things: the operationalization of the pathways into specific implementation plans on the basis of national ownership, the mobilization of science for understanding and ownership of the agri-food systems, and fostering knowledge and learning through peer-to-peer exchanges. I would like the last thing to do is to recognize the members of the youth and the indigenous people that they have been self-selected through a very thorough process as the focal points to be participating in the stakeholder engagement and networking advisory group to the hub. From the youth, we have Lucrezia Ducci, Nicolas Andres, which both of us are in the room, and Elizabeth Mwende, which I think is in the screen. And as you heard before, from the indigenous people, we have Dario Meja, Godfrey Roth, and Tove Solvald Gunn. And I would like to thank them that they will support the hub and ask all of you to give them a round of applause for their support.